Thank you for joining us. Now, I am really, really excited to be sharing the stage for this conversation with Paul. If you don't know, one of Paul's nicknames is the Kingmaker, because he has made many, many presidents throughout time. Now, the breaking news the world is about to find out is the story of how Trump was actually orange-pilled. So, on Friday, April 5th, you took a call with me and David, and we had a pitch. We pitched you on why it was so important that President Trump accept Bitcoin, support Bitcoin, accept Bitcoin as part of his campaign, and crypto. And you were the one who opened the door for us. You were the one who opened the door for this entire industry.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, but I wouldn't go that far. I think President Trump understood the importance of Bitcoin. He understood the importance of crypto to the economic recovery program he was planning on implementing as president. And I just was a bridge to bring to him some of the information that you all, Bitcoin Magazine and the industry have been promoting. But he was already watching what the Biden administration was doing. He was watching what the Gensler SEC was doing in going after Bitcoin and crypto and the whole space. And it made no sense to him because as a person who fancies himself as a deal maker and a businessman who understands how to make the economy work for all people, he saw Bitcoin and crypto as the future. And as the future, he didn't understand how the United States could maintain itself as the dominant economic capital of the world if Bitcoin wasn't a part of the structure. And so he understood intuitively that there had to be a change. And you all presented the framework, but he then took it. And frankly, he has been the strongest advocate you could possibly have at this point in time, and he's only going to be stronger because when he goes back to the White House in January, one of the first things he's going to be doing is to clean out the SEC and put together people in an administration that will look at Bitcoin as part of, as he said, the strategic reserve of the United States. So I think there's a lot of exciting times ahead. To those of you who are celebrating $100,000 Bitcoin, you're going to be celebrating much higher very soon, I think.
Paul, let me ask you, you've done many campaigns, you've lived through a lot of times, a lot of political issues. This moment in time that we're living in right now with Bitcoin, does this remind you of anything that you've experienced in a previous campaign or with previous candidates, and kind of like this renaissance moment of the flourishing, right, of a new industry?
Well, I mean, I thought Eric talked a little bit about how in 1992 the first text message was sent, and look at how long the incubation period takes, but where we are today. I think similarly, this is a part of that revolution. I mean, the technological revolution that we've all been experiencing your whole lifetime. As Eric was telling the story of the text messaging, it reminded me of a campaign I did in 1980 when Governor Ronald Reagan was running for president, and I was involved in his campaign. And we had to mandate for anybody who wanted to support us and run a campaign organization that they have a mimeograph machine in their offices so we could communicate with them through a literally turntable kind of a fax machine. So in my lifetime, I've gone from mimeograph machines to the internet and now the creation of a digital currency system that I think will be your future and your children's future.
What was the name of the machine again?
It's a mimeograph machine.
Does anybody in here know what that is?
It's about as big as this table.
Now, I think that what makes President Trump very unique is the fact that he's the money president. He really is. He's a money man. He understands money really well. His background, not only in entertainment, but also in real estate, makes him understand the importance of like physical assets and now obviously digital assets. Now, we are coming out of what has been probably a crypto civil war that our government has been waging against the industry. And I guess this is more of like a two-part question that I have for you, but I don't understand, and maybe you with your experience, your expertise, and everything that you've seen throughout your years in your political campaigns can maybe shed some light to us as to why has this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, been just so hostile against our industry when really all that we've ever wanted was just to create value, create new technology, grow, and kind of, keep the United States number one in this race that is the race of technology. Like, we've always won this race.
Well, if an administration can't understand the difference between a man and a woman, of course they can't understand the difference between currencies. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. But seriously, again, you're right. Donald Trump is a businessman. He's a builder. He's not just a businessman, and he wants to rebuild the U.S. economy. But frankly, he's watched the countries like the UAE and others look to crypto and to Bitcoin as part of their economic system. And his attitude is, how can the United States, if it wants to be the dominant player, not have it as part of its economic structure? So he understands intuitively that to lead, you have to, incorporate the technological revolutions that are going on, and this is one of them. And what you've experienced in the last several years in having to fight for your existence is gone now. You're now going to have an administration that is going to work with you to help you build the infrastructure for Bitcoin and for other cryptos to become a part of the fabric of the economy in the United States. And you're going to see how government can work to build things as opposed to just oppose.
So now that we're moving into a Trump era, right? An era of rebuilding, of kind of taking a breather and seeing what it is that we can build as an industry. Do you think that, so we still have people like Elizabeth Warren, and Elizabeth Warren likes to wage war on the industry, whether she understands it or she doesn't understand it. But one of the things that I have been most concerned about is that her rhetoric has been utilized in order not only to attack the industry, but to attack business people abroad. For example, T. Ringambarian, a former IRS agent, was lured into Nigeria. He's an employee of Binance. He was lured to Nigeria under false pretenses, and the Nigerian government used Warren's rhetoric to take him hostage. Now, thankfully, he's out. He's back in the United States. But the question is, do you think that now that Trump is president, do you think that we're safe, or do you think that people like this still pose a threat for us in the industry and for the business people that are carrying out really their everyday jobs in this industry?
I think with the United States embracing Bitcoin, it's sending a message to the world that it's okay to also participate in this in a real way. And I think some of the messages that Elizabeth Warren was spreading are going to get lost in the wake of what I consider to be the economic revival in the next year, or starting in the next 2 months, actually. But what's incumbent is for Bitcoin Magazine and for others to be out there continuing to communicate to the public the advantages for the industry, the advantages for the countries. Trump understands intuitively that if Bitcoin is a part of the strategic reserve of the United States and has a strong industrialization program in the United States, that the economy will benefit at all levels, not just within the space of the cryptocurrency world. And he understands that as the technological evolutions and revolutions are sort of spread out throughout the world, that the United States needs to lead in that regard. And so what Bitcoin Magazine has been doing is leading for the last several years against the tide. Now you're going to be in a situation where you'll have an administration that can work with you, but your responsibility still needs to remain the same. And by doing that, you'll drown out the voices of disinformation that people like Elizabeth Warren, Gensler, and others might be out there spinning, because they're not going away. They've just been defeated. And so the way to ensure their defeat is permanent is to continue to build constructively, to continue to educate. Bitcoin it's not a generational product, but it is a generational product. My generation doesn't understand it. But the more it is adopted by the U.S. and promoted by the Trump administration, the more it will penetrate other demographic groups that it doesn't have right now. And that means your responsibility at Bitcoin Magazine to continue to communicate why and how and what's working and what's not is actually more important.
So, what do you think now? We're communicating these messages. We are taking Bitcoin to the world to, again, right? Like, we're no longer on this war, suffering these attacks. The industry can now flourish. Now, what do you think are going to be some of the biggest challenges that we face in the implementation of Bitcoin and other cryptos into the financial banking system in the United States?
Well, I mean, just getting the banks to start to move with you is going to be an important battle. It'll be a war that they will not fight as viciously. I mean, what you'll find with the banking institutions, financial institutions, they will be the most resistant, but then as soon as the tide changes, they will try and jump in front of the crowd, in front of the line. And as you integrate with the financial world in ways that you haven't yet, the challenges will be to stay in the forefront of innovation, because what the banks are going to want to do is capture you and reformat you in ways that fit their model, not necessarily your model. And it will be very important as that's going on that, again, you're out there making sure that the freedom that Bitcoin provides, the security that blockchains provide, haven't stopped evolving. And as the infrastructure gets built, evolution is going to be mandatory. And so what the product lines are going to look like and how they'll integrate into our current financial systems will be the challenge of the next 4 years. And in doing the legislation and the regulations that the Trump administration will put into place to give some permanency to the structure so that it is not a passing fad, but is embedded in our economy, it's going to be important that the laboratory doesn't stop performing the research necessary to make the products more responsive to the needs of the new economy as they develop.
And now that we have a pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto president, and you have extensive experience not only in national politics but also in geopolitical issues around the world, and you've done a lot of business here in the MENA region for a very long time. What do you think that Donald Trump's stance means, for example, for a place like the Middle East on Bitcoin, obviously, and crypto?
Well, I mean, look, the world wants a president of the United States that they can trust and rely on. And the Middle East is a place where Donald Trump has had a strong relationship in his first term. He recognizes the importance of this region, not just to the energy world, but to evolution of new product lines of the crypto industry as well. And some of the forward thinking that's happening here in the UAE can be helpful to Trump and the people who are going to be putting the policies together in Washington to have a head start on some of the things that have been successful here. So, I mean, the thing about Trump is when he talks about America first, he's not talking about America dominant. He's talking about taking the care of the American people first. But he understands the role in the world, and with strong allies that, like those that exist here, are important to him to build that sturdy foundation. And so I see the experiences of the first 4 years actually moving more rapidly into new experiences for the next 4 years.
What do you think moving forward, this stance that Donald Trump has had with both Bitcoin and crypto, based on your experience, right, what do you think this means for future administrations in the United States? Like, what is it? Do you think that there will be force to either accept it? Do you think we're going to run into a situation again like like Harris and Biden, where they are, would like a CBDC?
Well, I mean, just the way that the crypto, and in particular Bitcoin, facilitate the rapidity that Eric spoke about in his speech, and the ability to take care of a lot of the regulatory chokeholds that exist in the financial structure, and the lack of economic freedom that the current structure in financial system imposes on everyday Americans who have to deal with the kinds of issues Eric talked about, a loan or a house mortgage or whatever. All that is going to be much easier in the future with this new economic engine that exists. And exactly how things will look 10 years from now, I'm not sure. But I think what I feel comfortable about is that the foundations that'll get put down in the next year or two will create more freedom for this industry and more economic freedom for people in everyday life. And that's really what the importance of this innovation is to end the stranglehold of the special interest that cater to themselves but not necessarily to the public.
Now, I asked Eric this, and I'd really like to get your view on it, and that is, all of these companies that have had to leave the United States because of, the current administration going after them, and a lot of them even have come here into the UAE to relocate. What do you say to them? Do you think that it's okay for them to come back? Do you think now that Donald Trump is president, we have a place in which we can all thrive in the industry?
Well, first of all, I think that having a home in the United States is going to be something that's attractive for all the advantages of the United States economic system, and really it's the freedoms that our Constitution provides to do business in ways that that are conducive to profit and to facilitating the economic flow of trade and industry. But also, I think more importantly, what is going to happen under Trump is an acceleration of why countries want to come back. I mean, because it's not just going to be the regulations or removing the strangleholds that exist currently on the crypto industry. He's talking about extending the tax credits, the tax laws that expire in February, and that were part of the first Trump administration. But he's talking about adding more tax cutting to it. So you're going to have the engine of a new economic program more beefed up, more conducive to growth, and you're going to have Bitcoin riding that same wave in the next 6 months, so that they will quickly flow into opportunities for companies to come back to the United States and set up real businesses. One of the things that always bothered Trump was to see American companies going offshore and being prisoners offshore when they wanted to come onshore. That's going to be removed. In his first term, in his first year, he created a tax holiday for companies who would bring their business back to the United States, put their profits back to work in growing their companies in the United States instead of overseas. And it had a tremendous economic impact in that first 4 years. So that pre-COVID, the United States was flourishing in one of probably the greatest economic revivals in its history. Well, I think Trump sees that same opportunity again. And while it won't necessarily be companies that were offshore because they were not able to build the business that they wanted in the manufacturing areas or in some of the trade areas, but now it's going to be a whole economic structure as well. And that combination, I expect to be really explosive.
Now I want to ask for some advice. What are some words of wisdom that you can impart on the industry moving forward? So we won this battle. We got Donald Trump elected. It's a new age. It's an age in which we can build. But what do you recommend we do moving forwards in order for our industry to thrive?
Well, you have to never stop inventing. You have to never stop innovating. And to think that now that the door has been opened, that the house is built, would be a mistake. And so it's very important that you continue to bring the creativity that you've been developing overseas into an economic engine like the United States that will now embrace you and give you the fuel to be jet propulsion. And so, but you can't assume that government's going to have all the answers, even a friendly government. You have to assume that the private sector is going to always know better. Now, Trump's going to fill the government sector with businessmen, so that's going to make it better than it is in many instances, but it's not going to make it the best. You still have to be the innovators. The private sector's still got a lead. And the difference now is you'll have a government that won't be stopping you, it'll be helping you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first at Bitcoin MENA. Paul Manafort.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being with us here today, Paul.
Is your company ready for the next evolution in financial strategy? Bitcoin for Corporations is your partner in securing the future of your business. With exclusive membership benefits, our comprehensive masterclass, and a network of trusted service providers, we provide the insights and resources to help you incorporate Bitcoin into your financial strategy, ensuring stability and long-term value. Strengthen your business. Innovate with confidence. Bitcoin for Corporations, protecting your treasury and positioning you for the future.